I call the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Thank God, Mr Speaker, for that.
I recognise the member.
Oh, what a tangled web she did weave when first she did practice to deceive. Now, Maurice Williamson's action in contacting the police was a breach of ministerial rules. There was no grey area in his actions. It was a blatant breach of how ministers must behave. Maurice has done the appropriate thing and resigned. And his Prime Minister has lauded him for doing so, and lauded himself as Prime Minister for taking that action. But what about Judith Collins? Where is the accountability here for cronyism, for sleazy favouritism, for corruption? The Minister of Justice was asked, you recall, some simple questions about a company connected to her family and her engagement with the company's business whilst on a ministerial visit to China. Now, what's relevant is that connection, because it determines if there was a serious conflict of interest in her actions, whether there was a breach of the Cabinet rules, and whether an allegation of corruption can possibly be made. The Minister's response was to do everything and anything but tell the truth. She explained one of her 3 engagements with Aurovita in China as being a casual meeting on the way to the airport. The debate's about ministerial standards and whether someone... Oh, I know that the last person to understand ministerial standards is one Jerry Brownlee, because you recall there was a new casino to be set up in Christchurch, and the new directors were going to be Jerry Brownlee and the head of the National Party. He got found out for that, so the last person to speak here would be Jerry Brownlee on a matter of convention. She said she was on the way to the airport. Oh, he's excited now. I have struck a nerve. We have struck a nerve. I turn the cameras on to him. I want to see how upset he gets when he hears the truth. Every action she took was to both withhold the truth and to divert focus on the truth. All these actions were bound to fail. And you know what? She began to regard herself as above the rules, above the law, above convention. She believes she's beyond reproach, beyond accountability. Blames her staff, blames the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Williamson crossed the line, it's true. Collins crossed the line countless times.
Order.
And she must go.
Will the member use the member's full name?
I certainly will. The Honourable Judith Collins crossed the line countless times. And now she thinks when all else has failed, she can take leave, hide from further scrutiny, and have this scandal blow over. Now, what's the taxpayer to make of this? You got Maurice Williamson taking the cop, saying I made a mistake and resigning. But not this one. It seems when a minister comes under pressure, she stops work, takes a rest, takes a holiday. When it's all too hard, she runs away.
Point of order, the Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, when the Speaker decides to require Parliament to set aside time for a debate on a matter that is of public interest and significance, it needs to be on a topic that is very clearly stated in the letter to the Minister. There were 4 letters today, I understand. In each case, it sought to debate the circumstances around the resignation of the Honourable Maurice Williamson. What we have at the moment is a Speaker who is using this opportunity to make accusatory statements in a way that is completely unacceptable and unparliamentary. Mr Speaker, I would ask you to call him to speak within the bounds of the debate that's in front of us. Otherwise, we are unreasonably using up time on a day that belongs to another event and ultimately members tomorrow.
Mr Speaker.
Speaking to the point of order.
Speaking to the point of order. Mr Speaker, you would have heard the speech given by the Honourable Bill English. You will also know what the complaint was that came from the Speaker with respect to ministerial rules. That's what the whole issue is about. And what we've got is a very embarrassed person trying to constrain the debate.
Can I, speaking to the point of order, further to the point of order, the Honourable
Mr Speaker, I am going to speak in this debate very shortly, but I would ask you, sir, to perhaps read to the House the letter that was supplied to the Speaker that led to the debate.
Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Member Grant Robertson.
Mr Speaker, this debate is one around a number of topics to do with accountability and to do with the ministerial resignation. The Honourable Bill English delivered a speech of around about 8.5 minutes, approximately 6.5 minutes of which were about the Labour Party, about David Cunliffe, and about issues related to that. This is a robust debate, Mr Speaker, but Mr English's contribution has raised a number of issues. Mr Peters has been speaking for a few minutes now on topics closely related to ministerial behaviour, far more closely related than most of Bill English's speech. I would ask for consistency. Bill English was allowed to complete his speech. Mr Peters should be allowed to complete his.
Absolutely.
Order, order, order. Can I just say to members that in addressing this issue, we have a point of order on the floor. Can I just say to members that when addressing this issue, members, when they respond to a speaker, are generally given 1 or 2 minutes to respond to what the other speaker has said. This is a debate about the resignation of the Honourable Maurice Williamson from his ministerial portfolios, and members may refer to other members in passing, but we need to remember that the reason for this debate is because of the resignation of a minister from his portfolio. So I just ask the members to recognise that when we come to debate this issue, and recognise also that all members are honourable members. I call the Right Honourable
Maurice
Winston Peters.
Williamson did not engage in a cover-up, but what we're seeing now is one. Mr Speaker, the real issue is who caused all this pressure? And of course, the answer is when a certain minister set out to deceive. Maurice didn't deny it. He said, I made the phone call. His explanation fell short and he went. Mr Speaker, this is how democracy is destroyed. When instead of setting standards and principles of acceptable ministerial behaviour, the minister and her Prime Minister so demonstrably fail the rules. And they seem to be in another world, a different realm to Maurice Williamson, one of which standards of ministerial conduct do not apply to them. Now, why has Maurice gone?
Williamson.
Why has the Honourable Maurice Williamson gone? And if I was him, I'd be feeling a bit upset, because it seems there are nakedly different standards. And why is Judith Collins still a minister if there is a consistent set of cabinet rules? Is it the national government's contempt or disdain for the public? Is it arrogance of the type you saw in that point of order by Jerry Brownlee? He thought his rumpole from down in Christchurch that he could offer something by way of a moot point that we should all take seriously. There is no possible justification, Mr Brownlee, for your colleague to remain a minister. It's simply an outrage, an insult to the New Zealand public. It's an affront to democracy. What is the taxpayer to think out there when they are under stress and pressure at work? Do they get a chance to walk off home? Don't be accountable? No more questions as to how you're going? No, they don't. They stick it out because that's part of the job. And a ministerial post paid for by the taxpayer demands the same standards. Who thinks it's a mere coincidence? First, that following the dinner, this is what happens. This is new, which is not known by the members over there because they're so indolent and lazy. You had the MPI recall of 3rd August. You had the 6th of August letter from Julia Zhu complaining about what's happened to the company. Then you had the 23rd engagements before and after by one Judith Collins. And then you have the certificate, the sanitary certificate, secured by their connections in China for her company. And then guess what happens? Their sales, which had got rock bottom, take off like a rocket. They soar to millions and millions of dollars. And Mr Williamson thinks he can get up and excuse that. It is a disgrace. We know the National Party is cracking behind the scenes. We know that the reason Maurice Williamson and Judith Collins should be thanked by us is because they've finally unveiled the real character and sordid nature of the modern National Party. Cronyism, sleaze, corruption, all sorts of secret funding.
Order.
Oh,
Order.
Can't
Can I just say to the member, I know what the member's going to say, and I've been thinking about it myself. I'd just like to refer members to Speaker's Rulings 26/5 in relation to corruption and disloyalty. And I want to read it to the House because I think it's important when we're looking at this debate. It is not only the right but the duty of a member who can show that there has been anything in the nature of bribery or corruption on the part of other members to bring that matter before the House in the proper constitutional way. But a member must not make veiled suggestions during the course of debate, and that's Speaker Stratham, 1934, so it goes back some considerable way. So I just want to again advise members that all members are honourable, and that is it. We refer to each other as honourable despite what we may think as otherwise, because all of us here are aspirational, and we call a member what we would want for them and us all to become. I caution the House that we tend to see things or the world as we are, not as it is. And when we point one finger at someone else, we point three at ourselves. So I just caution the member, if he can be careful, please, in the way in which he's addressing the House.
Mr. Speaker, there is more to come, but the reason Judith Collins is not telling the truth to this House is because the moment she does, she won't just cease to be a minister, she'll cease to be a member of Parliament. And for somebody that used to be on the Law Society, a seriously administering body up there in Auckland, the biggest group of lawyers in the country, perhaps the most talented, I say that Judith Collins is withholding the truth, and so are her colleagues, because they know the consequence. The trouble is, there is, Mr. Brownlee, more to come.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable Minister Jerry Brown.